All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Common Rule Podcast, and I am your humble narrator. My name is Danny. And man, how you guys been? Hopefully you guys have been good. Still clean and healthy, hopefully. And I'm wishing you the best, sending out good vibes out there for anybody and everybody. I don't know how many cliches we'll get through this together. Keep calm and carry on and all that jazz. But, the whole thing about getting worse before it gets better, yada, 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 this, that, and the other, whatever. I hope you guys are doing well. This is basically my point. It's been a minute since I've been on here, and I'm just going to ramble on here for a second, and hopefully the next few episodes I'll start tightening up a little bit. As I'll get into the remote podcasting deal in a second there, as I've mentioned before in the past. But I'm just doing a little catching up here. Not that you guys give a fuck, but if you're keeping score at home, my foot is basically healed. It's almost 100%. I was wearing a cast for a while there, and for the past 4 or 5 weeks. And man, I tell you what, a cast sucks. A cast really sucks. The nurse was asking me how it felt like to wear a cast because she's never, worn or broke any bone in her body or anything like that. And I said, man, it really sucks. And it got me to thinking, and I told her, you know what? Before last year, because it's going to be, I think today or tomorrow is exactly 1 year since I got out of the hospital with this footworm, right? No, foot wound. And I told her before last year, I've never even so much as gotten a broken bone or even a sprained ankle. I've been, and knock on wood, I've been all right. And it's just, I'm not going to call it the worst year of my life. But I've had better years, that's for sure. But at the same time, what are you going to do? And, the silver lining, and I keep talking about it, it's not like I was going to do anything super exciting over the past year anyway, especially the last 6 or so months because of this thing, So, if anything, it helped me get my mind right to live in this fucking hermit lifestyle for a second, or this quarantine lifestyle, as I said before. So anyway, I had a cast on my foot for a while, and last Thursday, it finally came off. The doctor said, "Hey, looks like you're pretty much good. We just need to have you walking around in some specially made insoles for your shoes, and you will be all right." And it was so good that we didn't even schedule another appointment, and which to me is just, very uplifting. There's a weight off my shoulders. I'm feeling good. Today is actually I'm recording this. It's still morning, Sunday morning here on the 16th of August in the year of our Lord 2020. And I'm telling you what, I'm killing it this Sunday morning, man. I got up. I made some of the fluffiest and most delicious pancakes I've ever made in my life. And again, thank you, YouTube makers, for that. I didn't exactly make them from scratch, but I didn't make them out of a box. I guess I don't know. When I say from scratch, I didn't go to the backyard and gather up the chicken eggs, and I didn't, bust the sugar cane out in the back and made my own sugar, but it's from scratch. Flour and milk and eggs, and made my own concoction and served them up. And man, I killed it. My eggs came out perfect, and my bacon came out perfect. And what I wanted to tell you guys to do before, when you cook bacon, YouTube how to cook bacon in the oven. That's the way to go, man. Unless I'm cooking bacon for a specific dish that needs to be in a pan, I'm never cooking bacon any other way. You've got to have your bacon because you cook it to perfection every single time. Once you know how you love your bacon, bam, you're just going to have your oven set to the specific settings, whatever temperature, whatever time, and man, I tell you what, hey, you know what? If you learn anything from me today, it's going to be that. Get your bacon together, bro. And sis, get it together. It's life changing. And if you're vegetarian or vegan, man, I'm sorry. I don't know what your substitution for bacon is, but I hope that you figure out a good way to cook whatever it is. And I'm sure there's a YouTube video about it. So get on it. And again, it's still technically morning. That was my breakfast. A good old-fashioned American breakfast with my coffee. I'm still going through my morning routine. I'm in my underwear, talking into this microphone, enjoying my coffee. I'm going to sit here and enjoy my coffee and ramble on for a second and, bore you for about 6 to 7 minutes. Again, it's been a while since the last podcast, and believe it or not, even though I'm technically not doing something specific to my little thing, as far as photography and such, I've still been kind of creatively affected about some certain things. I'm still shooting my art project that I just so happened to came up with. Speaking of silver linings, I've asked the nurses there if I can keep all the casts that I have. Every week they put on a new cast for my foot. I go back to the doctor. They open up the cast. They look at the foot and they go, one more week. And next week, same thing. Open up the cast. So I asked them if I can keep the cast, and they said, yeah, no problem. And they go, what the hell you want the cast for? And I'm like, I'm going to work on a little art project and see what it is. And so I started on that as far as making still lifes out of my cast and the progression. And I don't know. I just kind of want just some sort of, it's not a memory, or it's just some sort of, maybe even a closure or some sort of emotional catharsis to the closing of this whole thing. And I haven't really, and I spoke about this before, like when I was in the hospital, I didn't take any pictures of myself in there. It wasn't something that was interesting to me, even though like one of my photo heroes, I think one of his best work is having pictures of himself, self-portraits in the mirror in the hospital and in bed one day. And Helmut Newton, he had a heart attack, and he was in the hospital for a while. And Helmut Newton is known for more fashion and erotic fashion photography. And he made this project of himself, more or less. I mean, I don't think it was something that was like thought out or big, but I think in a certain way he needed to get creative in a certain way while he was in a hospital. And I've always loved that about him, as far as, there's a lot of times we get all pigeonholed in certain things, and this was something that's completely different from what he's known for, and the photographs are just very raw and real and personal, and I've always loved that about that project. But as for me, I didn't feel it. I didn't. That's not something that interested me as far as a project. And I haven't had anything, photographically speaking, jump out at me, or I've overthought in a certain things, like I should do this and I should do that. And I mean, to a certain point, and I'll talk about this a little bit too, I was thinking about documenting my trips to the doctor's office, asking the nurses if it was okay if I could be able to take video or film them or take photographs of them. But at the end of the day, I wasn't feeling it. I just couldn't bring myself to asking them to participate in a project. I have no idea. It's something that I couldn't run with, that I'm sure bigger and better artists than I would ever be could have done something a lot better with that, with this whole process, especially since it's been a year, for this thing to come full circle into, hopefully a really a conclusion here pretty soon. The wound is pretty close to healing. It's just I can't exactly go out running marathons or sprints or do anything like that. But what I can start walking a little bit, but the whole thing is like to be careful, make sure it gets stronger so that it doesn't open up and yada, yada, yada. But, that's neither here nor there. But basically, I'm in better mood. It does feel like there's a weight off my shoulders. And I've thought of this project with my cast that I started shooting it. And I just have a couple more ideas that I want to do with it. But it's just very basic still lives. Something that's going to get me at least pushing the shutter button and developing some film and soon maybe make some prints. All the nurses in the office are really excited, like, oh, what art project is it going to be? You're going to have to send us some pictures. And I haven't told them anything about me as far as being a photographer or anything like that. So if I sent them something that's fairly artistic, I'm sure that they'd be pretty cool about it. I don't know. But anyway, basically I have an idea for something and there's a point to it. And hopefully as I start moving more of my equipment into this house or apartment, I'll be able to get even more creative and start printing stuff. So as far as the creative process, things are looking up. I am definitely getting more motivation and inspiration to get things done in that aspect. So we'll see. And of course, if you stay tuned, you'll see what progress we'll make there. Of course, the other thing is that I just decided, and I've spoken about this the last couple episodes too, and I know I keep rambling on about it, but I'm more or less setting myself up to have remote podcasting with a Skype or telephone call. Yeah, I decided that that's going to be the way to go. I'm getting more serious about it. And if you guys follow on the Instagram, you guys notice that I did a little post on that and on the Twitters. I'm glad actually that a couple people responded and like, I'm all for it. I would love to be on the podcast. And I'm like, all right, cool, man. I just have to tighten some screws and take care of some loose ends, and I'll be pretty much ready to go on that side of the podcast, and I'm pretty excited of having that happen. And hopefully the audio is decent enough to broadcast or what have you. You guys know that if you guys don't know, Mike Watt is a musician. He's a bass player. I'm not sure how much you guys are into that cat, but he's I think calling him a pioneer is not an overstatement or an exaggeration anyway. He's definitely an inspiration to many people. He's got, I think if you guys, the most famous thing that you guys might know him for, in case you guys weren't into that, is you guys remember that show G.A.S? The tune where the slide guitar comes in, that song, that's his band. They're called, one of his bands. It's called probably his most famous band. It's the Minutemen, and he has a podcast too. But what's funny is that all his podcasts they're all basically done in through Skype. And what bugs me is that being a musician, a lot of these Skype calls are, I'm not shit talking Mike Watt, man. That's not what I'm doing. All I'm saying is that being musicians and knowing about the recording process, I would expect a little better audio. That's all I'm saying. So that's from the beginning why I've been a little, put off about doing Skype calls, but I'm gonna get over that, and hopefully I'll figure it out and see if Skype is a better way to doing it. Skype and a bunch of other options as well. So anyway, that's on the horizon. And I'm excited about that, and hopefully I'll be able to start talking to people and making time to make it happen. I wanted to start this week on it, But the day job is very it's taking a lot of my time here. Even though I'm not doing anything, to be honest, I am I'm working hard. This past week was kind of a burden to get shit done. So that's why I was like, oh man, I pulled the trigger too soon. But yeah, I'll start bugging you guys about coming on the show and talking and start talking to real artists and real creatives as far as the process and what have you. But just for today, you're stuck with me for at least 1 or 2 more episodes before we get this thing going. The thing that I've learned here, and I don't want to. One of the things I think that I set out, and I hope I've kind of driven this home, is that I'm not really here to. I want to talk more about the creative process of what it is involved as far as creating, and people's other takes on making a certain project happen, or their overall workflow to be creative. And I think hopefully I brought that home. So I'm not really interested, even though I've talked a little bit about it, I'm not really interested on the business aspect of the creative process, of being an artist, of being any sort of, I hate using the word creative, but any sort of person who creates anything, whether you're a carpenter or a painter, a sculptor, or an actor. I'm not into talking about business and money and how much you should be making. I've talked about certain things before, but again, I've stayed away from like, hey, you need to know how much you charge and you need to know how much you're worth and all that jazz. But just a certain situation has come up with me lately to where, and you know what, it's a good situation. And I'm only going to talk about this side. I'm not going to talk about specific figures and money and what you should be worth and all that jazz. I'm just going to talk about the importance of communicating certain aspects especially for compensation during some things. Because a lot of the times even when you, I don't know, one of these, okay, so the reason I brought this up is because I've had a personal situation come up here. But in my YouTube, within the last week, in my little YouTube rabbit hole escapades, there's this certain photographer where she talks about her bad experiences as a wedding photographer. You guys, don't get me started on that. You guys know how I feel about wedding photography. But she talks about having to, go into business or doing a project, basically shooting a wedding for who she thought was a friend or a family member. And she ended up having to sue that person because of business, whatever. And I'm like, ugh. So I have my personal issues on that, of course. But when I had a personal situation come up lately, and I'm not going to bore you with details, man, but the problem is that part of the blame, and I hope, from my viewpoint, there's no bad blood. There's, as far as whatever artistic relationship we had going on, it's not personal, and it's not a certain situation where like, oh, we're never going to talk to each other or work with each other again. But there comes a time where you do need to draw the line somewhere as far as compensation goes. And part of the problem is communication. Now, the reason I bring this up, and the reason I want to talk about like know your worth, or even the business aspect of it, is because that shit affects your psyche and your creative flow and your juices. And when you're in a bad mood, man, when you're just fucking down, it affects everything. I mean, forget about your personal life, because that's, you're probably taking it out on your dog, you're taking it out on your kids, on your wife, on your special partner, special lady friend, your partner, whoever it is. Shit, even your fucking shitty coworkers at work, you're probably going extra hard in on them. But that could come from, the bad business aspect of somebody trying to take advantage of you, or that you feel that someone is trying to take advantage of you. And, we've all gone through that. I think that is something that's universal here. I'm sure we all have a story of someone who's tried to fuck us over with their bullshit. I know you do. If you've been anywhere, unless you give away your work all the time, which there are certain people that do. No, don't, and there's nothing wrong with that. That might even be a better way to go. But unless you give your work away all the time to friends and such, we all have a story about how we all have a bad story about the business aspect of this thing. And unfortunately, that we don't all have representatives. We don't all have an agency. You know, like obviously I'm a photographer and I'm into this. We're not Danny Clinch, who's a representative by a manager, project manager, or an agency where they go, nope, this is how much Danny charges for his project. And it's not me. Danny Clinch is a music photographer. This is how much he charges for this thing. This is how much, and Danny, or Mr. Clinch, let's put it that way, doesn't have to deal with bullshit. Annie Leibovitz doesn't, I'm sure she doesn't have to deal with bullshit as far as who is representing her. Like, no, Annie charges this much for portraits. I'm spitballing here because I'm sure we all know she probably has got contracts with Vogue and, who owns Vogue? Condé Nast or whatever that big umbrella company is, but I'm sure she's got contracts. So she's not worried about money. But, these other photographers that are represented by agencies and such don't have to worry about it because, they have people that do that for them. That's how cool they are. But, the rest of us, we have to deal with that bullshit. We just can't concentrate on our creative flow and our art the whole time. One of the main things is always going to be to address the elephant in the room from the get-go. And I've gotten to the point in my little, artistic journey, if you will, to where a no sale is just as good as a sale. All right, I'm not going to sit here and haggle to somebody and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it for a discounted price, or I'm going to do it for X amount. This shit that I do for maybe a friend or something like that in a certain pinch, but I'm not going to devalue myself in any way. Now, we value it. Fuck market value. I don't have to, I'm not going to get into that, but it's whatever you think you're worth or whatever you want to charge or whatever you think is going to be fair. And at the end of the day, if you walk away from doing a project that is fair to you and you don't feel taken advantage of and you feel you got compensated properly, whatever that amount is, whatever that exchange was, as long as you feel good about it, that's it. That's the perfect price or the perfect way. It doesn't matter what it is. And I just want to drive that home. It could be different moving from project to project. It doesn't have to be always the same thing. Again, I think what we have to think about first is our state of mind, our mental health, creatively. And I think that's important. And communication is to use a cliche, it's a two-way street. If you don't bring it up, more than likely the other person, whether it's a client or friend, they're not going to bring it up. But in a lot of cases, it's not because they don't want to, it's because they just don't know. So we have to say, hey, you know what? I usually do this, this, and this for this, this, and this. And whether or not they accept it or whether or not they can afford it, that's going to be up to them. You have to leave it up. And one of the things that I do is in a lot of cases is I leave it up. Simple. It's a yes or no question. Can you do this for this, or are you, what is your budget or whatever it is that you're going to do for a friend? It's a yes or no question. And, but as far as photography goes, I basically have learned where my line is, what I'm comfortable getting compensated for. But I've started this other thing with podcasting and recording to where I found myself making the same mistakes that I was when I first started out. And as far as the business aspect of photography too, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, and I should have been more clear in the beginning, so that hopefully we didn't walk away with bad feelings or anything like that. I mean, no one was insulted. As far as my viewpoint is, I don't have any hard feelings. I'm hoping they don't, but there comes a time when you have to say, hey, man, we are at this point, and usually now this is what I need to be compensated in order to move forward. And that's totally fair, man. And again, I'm telling you, a no sale is just as good as a sale as far as the creative process is concerned. Now, if you're 100% live off of your artwork, and you're going to have to, you probably already have, this isn't for you. You probably already have something. You're probably already a pro and being compensated properly for your work, or at least in one way, shape, or form, especially during times like this, I would imagine. I follow today, as a matter of fact, and other reasons why this kind of got me going on the stop process is like there's this cat that I follow on Twitter, and he was asking about people's day jobs and what they do, or whether or not they were 100% a photographer or not. And some people were like, no, I have a day job, and photography is my hobby, or, what I love to do, but I need to pay the bills and such. And some people actually go, no, I'm a photographer 100% of the time, except that, during these times, it's getting very difficult to, make this thing happen. And I see a lot of tweets happening, especially in the beginning, that I did think were a little bit insensitive, where I see artists going, and I'm not calling anyone out, dude. I'm not calling anyone out, but I did think that they were a little bit insensitive. As like, dude, people don't have jobs. People can't go to work. People are expecting these checks to come in, and you're out there kind of, hey, you should buy art, buy my art, buy this, buy that. And it's like, dude, take it easy. All right. There's, and hey, if you made sales from that sort of, and I talked about this before if you made sales during this time, hey, dude, more power to you. But the times are tough, and I understand that, and it's, to me, it's a very touchy subject. I think we need to be more sensitive before we start selling stuff. I think, and for a second there, I did think it was going to be, all right, man, you can start, I was thinking for myself, okay, I'm going to start saying, offering services and offering, especially when the cast was coming off, or when I thought I was going to, a couple weeks ago, I'm like, oh, this is going to be the last week. And I'm like, all right, so I'm going to start putting it out there, offering services. But then news comes up, and it's like, no, it'll probably end up being worse before it starts getting better. And this whole pandemic thing is, putting a little monkey wrench into the whole aspect, sort of. So I don't know what's happening there. Anyway, make sure that you are happy with how you are offering your services, especially during this time, because again, it's going to be mental health. And if during this time, there's a lot of shit that a lot of us have to go through mentally with this whole change and quarantine, pandemic sort of thing. God forbid you actually get sick, know someone that gets sick, or even worse. If you're dealing with that and then having the stress of fucking around with some fucking guy or girl or fucking client or some guy or some way, man, that's just a bad combination for lots of things, and we don't need to go through that. So, just make sure that everyone's happy leaving the negotiation table, if you will, and I think that's just going to go a long way. And it seems obvious, but in my situation, I just thought I'd talk about it because it did affect me a little bit as far as my psyche, and like, God damn it, man. And it affected me more because I know better, and I know that I should have communicated a lot better from the beginning, but I didn't. And the expectations for the other party just weren't there, and weren't the same expectations that I have. So everything just kind of like, okay, well, this is where we're going to hit the pause button, and when we get through this on the other side, hopefully we'll see each other on the other side again, sort of thing. So we'll see. and you know that, and now I'm happy and I'm stressed. I'm not stressed out, and I'm like cool about it. But again, it's something that I needed to more or less relearn or remind myself of doing. So I just wanted to remind you as well too that even during these times, man, you don't need extra stress. The other thing that I've done here in the last couple of weeks, and you heard me talk about OnlyFans, right? And I do think I love OnlyFans. I'm gonna put that out there. I don't care what the fuck you guys think, man. I love OnlyFans, and I do love supporting artists on OnlyFans. And the thing about OnlyFans is that it's just not porn, man. Guys, it's just not porn. You can do an OnlyFans for anything. And in my opinion, OnlyFans is a better platform than Patreon. And if you guys are on Patreon, the thing that Patreon has that's a little deceiving is that it's got this cloud of being like, hey, it's for the artist, by the artist, and we want the artist to get paid. But what they don't tell you is that and this is my personal opinion, but I suspect that Patreon, a huge chunk of Patreon is indeed pornography, to the point where they've had to scale back some things, and sites like OnlyFans is necessary to accommodate the adult industry. And it gets to the point now where everybody's cracking jokes about OnlyFans and, all these, what's the joke? Basically, like strippers, you can't go to, the strip clubs are closed and stuff, so they open OnlyFans up. And you know what? It's a business model. I've spoken about this before. And it's not just strippers anymore, man. There's the other people on, you hear it all over the place where people want to know how to open up an OnlyFans because you can make money off of it. There are people that, and this is, and I am talking about models and adult work and nude work and stuff, to where it is so profitable right now where people are asking other people how to open up an OnlyFans on the down low, on the low key, basically anonymous. And well, you can't. Everyone's gonna. It's the internet, man. Everyone's gonna find out. So you either just fuck it and do it, or what? I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking to make some money, and if you're paying your rent and a few more bills and the car bills with it, I think you're gonna be all right. I'm all for it. But the thing with OnlyFans is that it doesn't just have to be for adult work. And I think I am going to open up an OnlyFans for the Common Rule podcast, to where, for support, and offering goodies and, things like that. And anybody that would love to support the podcast, hey, man, jump on there and do what you can. And it would be exciting. I'm not going to sit here and beg for money, because I don't bow down to any fucking sponsors, but, I'll eat the Pizza Hut slice of pizza or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about? Oh, some of you guys might not even know what I'm talking about, man, but it's a Wayne's World reference. By the way, man, I can't wait for the new Bill and Ted movie. Dude, I think Keanu Reeves is going to be the best actor in the history of acting, dude. Better than fucking Paul Newman and Sidney Poitier and Meryl Streep. Keanu Reeves is going to kill it, dude. I really seriously can't wait for that, man. And I'm glad that it sounds like they're going to release it even I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I think it's going to be one of those that gets released at the theater and on a streaming service at the same time. And man, God bless Keanu. I think rumor around the campfire is, and I don't have a fact checker here because, we're low key doing this here, but I think they're going to make another Matrix movie. The sisters there are going to make another movie, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what else they can add to that, but if Keanu's in, I'm watching it. Of course, John Wick. Come on, man. Come on. Hell yeah. The other thing I wanted to throw at you today, I do have another OnlyFans page that if you follow along on the Instagram, you know that my other photography, Red House, I do I work with models and such, but the fans, let's just say, were kind enough to support that allowed me to invest in some other thing. So I think you guys have heard me talk about G.A.S, G.A.S, Gear Acquisition Syndrome, which with photographers and I think with musicians, especially guitar players, is a real thing. You can't have enough of whatever it is that you have. You can't have enough cameras. You can't have enough guitars. You can't have enough pedals. You can't have enough equipment to create or be creative. And we've talked about this. I remember talking this about a few episodes back with Roger, a photographer. And what's funny is that if you follow Roger along in his Instagram, he just picked up a new piece of gear too. He's got a new camera as well that he's using right now to take. I think he's going to use it for street photography and such. But I too have acquired a couple pieces of gear in the last few weeks. Starting with, yes, I did buy a new pedal. It's one of these amp simulator sort of thing to where I'm, again, Juan Minuto. I bought it for Juan Minuto, and he's going to start recording some things to the point where I think I'm going to have Juan Minuto, and I don't know how possible that this is going to be as far as generating a buzz for Juan Minuto, but I started I'm going to start, I already got the podcast name and everything, but I'm going to start Juan Minuto Podcast to where Juan Minuto is going to share some gems. I'll be narrating the podcast, of course. I don't know how Juan Minuto has got a busy schedule, so I don't know if he's going to make it into the studio all the time. But we have a little catalog of Juan Minuto's work way back of some of his past quote-unquote shows, and we'll be playing some of those and curating some of Juan Minuto's catalog on the new podcast there at the Juan Minuto Podcast. So stay tuned for that. I'll let you guys know when that's up and running. I'm kind of excited for that, but that's basically one of the things that I am looking to get another guitar and possibly a bass. I don't know how to play bass real well. I know your basic dum 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 dum, as a guitar player, just fucking playing root notes and what have you. But things will be a lot easier if I had a cheap ass fucking $50 bass, so that I can learn and hopefully follow along to Juan Minuto's awesomeness, if you will. So I got that going, and so I acquired some equipment to help the creative process in that point. Yes, I'm very guilty. I've had my let's just say my philosophy on gear to where I've even gone to the point where like, yo, you don't need a new fucking camera. You just need to use the shit that you got, or what you need is this, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? There is an argument for G.A.S. There is an argument for like, hey, I got this new piece of equipment. I'm going to go out and start creating with it. And something that basically helps you motivate and inspire and ignite that creative process all over again to where like you get excited about doing stuff. So I ended up, I'm going to shoot a little bit more video, and I've acquired in one way, shape, or form one of those little GoPros. And I'm like excited to use that and start making little short films and start using it for little projects to where it's very convenient to carry around. It's small, it's pocket size, and I can do some things with it. And it's better than carrying around like a little camcorder, of course. So I got myself one of those. And again, it's something that I already have a couple ideas of what I want to do with it. Of course, I already talked about I want to start shooting in 4K. I built a new PC that will allow me to edit video faster, and I'm just overall stoked on acquiring gear, if you will. And in one way, I got a new I'm always looking to make the podcast as mobile as possible. And I got a couple extra pieces of gear that got me excited about, like, oh shit, okay, so everything can go in one bag and I can go podcast out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a field or something, you know. So I'm excited about that as well. So, you know, the thing is, like, man, don't go out and drop a rent payment on something. You know, you've got, it's little by little, man. Just, that's my whole point, is that it's okay to get new gear if it's going to help you, if it's going to inspire you. I'm wishy-washy on this. One day I'm going to tell you, you know what, that's a waste of money, and another day I'm going to say, oh shit, yeah, you do need that new Huchama from Hichama, and it's going to make you go awesome thing, is this, that, and the other. And it's just like, you know, and to be honest, the gear that I've acquired from people, I think, who at one point, it's used. I buy stuff used. And it's just like, at one point they were excited about getting this, and now they're letting it go for a cheap price, or a cheaper price, you know. Hey, that's how you get hell of a deals on the eBays, you know what I'm talking about? So, again, I have, you know, I didn't catch the COVID, knock on wood, but I do have a little case of the G.A.S, and I'm telling you, it's okay. I'm not going to I'm not going to suffer too bad from it. But you know, it's just if you think that the new thing is going to inspire you to do something, I'm like, hey man, try it out, get it. You know, in certain situations, like in my situation, like with photography, I can go rent the equipment out and see how it's going to work, you know. And it's I don't know if you can rent guitars and pedals. Actually, I've never looked into that, but I can go to Home Depot and rent some tools to see if I want to buy them. I've done that, and you know, you can go to the you know, wherever and rent something out and try it out and see if it's going to work for you. The thing is that when I have my friend, she's starting she hasn't started. She's working. She has her YouTube channel, and she's a seamstress. She's a tailor. She makes dresses and what have you. And she's got a YouTube channel, and she, you know, contacts me all the time about, like, hey Danny, how do I set up, you know, lighting, or how do I set up my camera for video and this, that, and the other. And we talk about it. And the first time, and just last week, what's funny is we were talking about Skype. She's the first person that I've ever Skyped with video, you know, like do FaceTime, I guess is what you call it on the other phone. But I Skyped with her so that we can look at each other video per video, and I can, you know, show her the parts that she needed and help her. She got the parts, and I was just helping her put it together. And just from that, I ended up getting more ideas for what I want to do. And yeah, I said, oh shit, I need this, and I need this, and I need that. And again, they're just little ticky-tack sort of pieces of equipment that I need, but that just make life easier. And again, it's inspiring to have someone else who's inspired to do their stuff, and then you start kind of like getting the synergy, like, oh shit, that's a great idea. So it gave me another idea to where I'm going to probably start a cooking channel on the YouTubes, and, you know, start something off like, you know, just cooking basics sort of things, the way that I cook, you know, something about, you know, cooking for beautiful bachelors with plenty of time on their hands is, I don't know, that's just it's a work in progress. The title is a work in progress, you know, I'm just putting that there. But yeah, those are all ideas that have come about in the past few weeks from just talking to friends and acquiring gear and what have you. So, hey, we are in a good place now. We're in a better place. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say we're in the best place or we're in a really good place, but I'm hoping you guys are also in a better place. As slowly but surely, hopefully, we start coming out of this thing. And I'm, in a certain way, I'm kind of glad that I waited to this long to bring out the next episode, because you guys know that the news right now is very frustrating to some of us, and it's to the point where I recorded some episodes and I caught myself like being angry, or being not necessarily angry, but definitely frustrated. And the talk goes into somewhere completely different tangent. And I'm like, you know what? Let's put the kibosh on this for a second and circle the wagons and reset and, get in a better state of mind. And that's all, again, going back to the beginning, is that and make sure that you're mentally, emotionally healthy to start creating again, even though, some of us, again, find good art in having through struggle and frustration. So, but basically, yeah, it's been a good last couple of weeks. So I'm excited moving forward. Again, hopefully we'll start having remote podcasts and having people on the podcast that will help us with our creative process. I've rambled on enough today. Thank you so much for listening. You guys have a great day and enjoy your youth.